Get ready for takeoff because it's a take flight talk. It's your boy James Rudy. We got Fitz, okay, and our plane, all right, our jet, if you will, is it's looking lopsided. It's looking lopsided because I don't even know if Fitz has turned on his side of the controls. Fitz, how are you feeling, man?
What is there to say? What is there to say? I don't want to be here right now. I love our fans. I'm committed to doing this podcast, and I'm putting on a freaking brave face, and I'm showing up. What the hell did we just witness? The Zach Wilson should be cut from the New York Jets. I don't care. I don't care how of an emotional exaggeration that probably is. Zach Wilson should be cut from the New York Jets. This guy cannot hit open receivers. The Mike LaFleur, he deserves some slack for this too. For him to go and have 2 weeks to prepare us for this game. He had 2 weeks. We had a bye week. This looks like a JV team coming out here. Zach Wilson couldn't hit open receiver. We had a game plan that clearly did not work well enough. Execution was a problem as well, no doubt. It was both. But why are we not prepared for this game? Our defense was absolutely elite. It was an incredible performance from our defense. There was a lot of missed tackles, and that happens. You're allowed to go and give away missed tackles. You're allowed to have mistakes. If your standard is executing defensive plays, you're allowed to make mistakes. This offense, we do not deserve. This offense does not deserve to wear the NFL emblem on their jersey. The Jets symbol adds up. This is what we've sadly become accustomed to for the last 12 years. But the NFL emblem, I don't know if we deserve to be in this league as long as Zach Wilson is the quarterback of this team. 9 for 22 with 77 yards. Woody, I know your response is going to be, I'm being a little bit much right now, and that's fine. Tell me, give me something good to look at. What? Am I crazy? Is this way too much, or is this a reasonable reaction to the absolute pathetic performance that we just witnessed?
Well, for the first time since week one, if there ever was a time that we saw same old Jets, I mean, if that's not a same old Jet type of loss, I do not know what is. In the middle of a 3-3 slugfest, right? Dog fight, 20 seconds left. You're kicking it back, thinking about overtime, and we lose. On the return, we have one of the best special teams coaches in the NFL. Our unit has been elite, and that's what happens. Is the offense, do they deserve to wear the NFL emblem? Yeah.
No, they don't.
They do. They do. And yes, you are being emotional. You're not following your own advice from just a couple of weeks ago, or not even a couple of days ago. Jets fans, if things don't go our way, it's okay. I think we're on the step one of being upset. Step two,
it's different between not going our way and witnessing what we just witnessed. That's not what I advocated for. I'm not skipping out on my advice. I said if it doesn't go our way, if we lose, that's one thing. We did not just lose. It was far worse than just losing. Like, I am at the point where I had optimism still for Zach to potentially figure this out. I want him cut today. I don't want him on the team anymore. I'm sick of this. I'm done with him. This is over. Put in Mike White. Give us something that can throw the ball to a receiver, for the Lord's sake. I'm done.
I mean, I don't even know what to say because Bella, you already knew. Like that, I don't even know. Like, what? Nothing has changed. This was a loss. It was a loss. It was a 3-3. Now, I will give you this. Right? He didn't have a pick, but clearly should have had a pick to McCourty. Right? He literally dropped it.
Multiple.
He did have multiple. He had
at least two.
Yeah, the one with Jones on the Mims throw. Yeah. Yep. So at least, yeah, you're right. At least two. The score, right, was almost way different if it wasn't windy. Nick Folk would have hit those. My fantasy team would have done a little bit better. And yeah, so you definitely have some points to make. But eliminating the coulda, woulda, shoulda, what did happen was a one-score loss again to the New England Patriots, who have been owning new QBs. Do I think this is the end of the line for Zach Wilson? This is crazy because how many times do I have to remind everybody? Never, ever wanted to draft Zach Wilson. I didn't want to draft a quarterback that year. And if we were going to draft a quarterback, I was telling Fitz, I was thinking about Justin Fields, but I didn't even want to draft a quarterback. I would have taken Reek, Waddle, and Chubb all day, but that's a story for a different day. So, is Zach the answer? Probably. I mean, he's definitely not Josh Allen. So people need to stop. Oh my God, I'm going to lose my damn mind if anybody says Josh Allen's name. But can we win games with with Zach Wilson as our quarterback? Yeah, he could be Jimmy G. That's still possible. That's still possible. I expect him to have a really nice bounce back game actually this week against Chicago.
I think you're insane. I think you're insane. What do you like? Tell me, like, what are we working towards? Are we working towards like, oh, maybe we'll get a better record than we did last year? Are we looking towards making a run in the playoffs? Because I'll tell you one thing: if we can't do this against the Patriots, Zach Wilson threw for 77 yards. I'm sick and tired of hearing this. Oh, Belichick beats young quarterbacks. Guess what? Mac Jones, also a young quarterback, not quite as young as Zach, of course, but also a young quarterback, threw for 250. He was 23 for 27 against one of the most elite defenses in the league. Explain to me, where is the gap between youth and eliteness of the defense, where we're going from 23 for 27 for 246 yards versus 9 for 22 for 77? That gap is so monumental. I think we're missing a lot of things here. We're missing a lot of things. This was one of the most pathetic performances of a quarterback I've seen in my entire life. Honestly, this was pathetic. Wide open people, wide open receivers, missed numerous times. Missed in a couple occasions so bad it should have been picks. But luckily, the Patriots defense is so shitty and they're so overrated that they couldn't even get the interception. I am disgusted by the game plan that was put together, the preparation that was put together from the offensive coordinator, from the QB coach. The preparation, I think, is culprit number one as to why we got our butts kicked today. Because this was a butt kicking. I don't care what the final score was. Relative to offense performance versus offense performance, we got our butts kicked. And we got lucky that our defense is so good that despite Mac Jones honestly putting together a pretty decent game, they made big stops where they needed to. The Patriots offense, they got yards today. They were able to go downfield. They had opportunities for scoring. And we had some tough weather that prevented Nick Folk from getting a field goal. Defense played extremely well, had a couple missed tackles, allowed some yards, but they're so good that despite having some mistakes, points on the board did not really accumulate the way it really should have, despite the dominance between the two offensive systems. I am disgusted, and I do not see this team being able to beat like this. Like Zach Wilson, what the heck was that today? You had a week off. You had time to study the team. You know, you look back, one of the last, I saw something on Instagram the other day where the Bills absolutely obliterated the Jets one year after a bye week, and there was a whole bunch of snow. So one of the Bills players had all of them, they had like 2 weeks to prepare for the game. And I think they only had a couple days of practice because there was so much snow at the Bills facility, and all they did was just obsess over tape. They just watched tape for like 2 weeks. Ended up being an absolute blowout of a game. And it's like, what was this team doing? We had 2 weeks to prepare for one game. This is not showing up. 77 passing yards from a quarterback. I don't care what team you're going against. I don't care what coach you're going against. That's unacceptable. Woody, level my head out here.
I mean, both teams had 2 weeks to prepare. It's not, one or they both had 2 weeks to prepare. They both knew what was going on. And yeah, there was definitely some out coaching. And Zach has done what he's needed to do against elite defenses. He has with, Denver, right? We got that win. Against the Patriots, it didn't quite work. We also, I got to say, the running game, we are missing Brees home, man. We are missing Brees.
No question.
It's tough. Robinson came in. I was expecting Robinson. If you guys saw my Jet Press article, I was expecting Robinson to have a good game. I actually started both in fantasy, Robinson and MC. So I'll eat that loss. It's fine. But I think there's a lot of at play here, and yeah, LaFleur. I mean, we couldn't really get anything going, but we saw the difference. He was making adjustments, but the execution was not great. And I really do have to put a lot on Zach's shoulders. Like, it's not like we're getting false starts, illegal formations. Guys are running routes. Guys were open. There were so many times that guys were open, right? And the field was open, right? If Zach actually did use his legs, he had room to run. But when it was time to actually sit down, in the pocket and throw the ball, it was inaccurate just about every time. Every time. So I think it was a really, really bad game for Zach. I don't know if I agree with the decision to not pull him in this game because this was, as close to a must win as you could get. I mean, now we're last in the division. And because it was so attainable, like it's 3-3. So literally one drive could change it all. I really think it would have been worth, throwing Mike White in there and saying, "Hey, man, you have one drive, right?" He's done it before. He came in and he has scored touchdowns against the Patriots. He has done that, been there, done that. So to be like, "Hey, man, we need a score. Like, can you do it?" I think that probably it would have been worth it because it was bad. It was bad. I had no faith when we had that, chance to get the game-winning drive with under 2 minutes. I was like, we're not going to get a first down, and that's not what happened because Garrett had a dive. We don't even know if we caught it. He was on it.
He probably didn't. It didn't really look. It looked like it bounced in between. Like he's got. Like I love Garrett. Like there's not any slight on him, obviously, but it looked like the ball under his arms did kind of hit the ground a little bit.
Yeah, no, it definitely looked like that. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And if you take away that one Mims catch, I mean, Zach Wilson, he threw for 42 yards. So, I mean, I
and how many times? And what do you like? That's the thing where it's like this is not an outlier. This is a slight exaggeration of the norm. You know what I mean? Like, how many times have we said against I think it was against the Broncos as well as the Packers, and I think there might have been one of the game where he was one big play short of being in double-digit passing yards, and he is our number. Like, it's not like he's a backup quarterback on a short week, playing against a good defense. He is the quarterback, our starting quarterback that we're expecting and preparing to be the number one quarterback for the game. And when you're going up 2 weeks to prepare, this is unexcusable. And like you said, for this to be one pass away from being a sub 50-yard passing game for your QB1, I'm at the point where I sometimes put tinfoil on my head just to see how it feels. I'm at the point right now where I'm starting to question, was it intentional that we committed to Joe Flacco instead of Mike White for the first 3 games of the season before Zach came in to prevent a QB controversy? Like, I honestly think that's might have been part of it. Like, was it like, let's just put Joe Flacco out there? We all know what we're going to get with him. Mike White, he got flashes sometimes. He might give us some coaching issues. He might give us a decision we don't want to really make if he goes and puts on a clinic in these first 3 games. And the lack of putting him in this game, where they're like, you know what? I'm starting to think the coaching staff's probably like, it's probably not going to be pretty. We know what Belichick does to these young quarterbacks, which I'm so sick of hearing that narrative. But we got the Bears. Then we got some easier games coming on. If we could just get them through this, maybe we could see a little bounce back game. And I think no matter how bad it was, I think this, because I don't know how it could have been much worse than this, despite the actual throws that should have been picks actually being picks. That's the only way the game probably could have gone worse. Like, I think the coaches are now managing PR nearly, where it's like, just leave Zach in here. Do not create a QB controversy. We got a good thing going right now, and we'll figure out what we got to do with the QB position after the season's over. And that's just a tough place to be in, where we're so close. You know what I mean? We've done so many right things with getting the right personnel, and just perpetually this quarterback problem. Woody.
I mean, yeah, the defense, we already, seen the graphic. The defense is performing at a higher clip than that 2010 defense. Today, I mean, after those six sacks, I mean, Mac was getting hit left and right. Bryce Huff felt like he was in the backfield every play. Clemens and JJ, the two rookies combining on either side to get that sack. I mean, this defense, yeah, it's unbelievable. People got hurt. Quincy got hurt. He was able to come back. We lost MC for a little bit. We had Eccles come in, make some plays. I mean, the defense, even with the missed tackles, and there were some horrible ones. Anytime that happened, they would get a sack and push him back. So yeah, we are super close. Elijah Moore, there was an Elijah Moore sighting. It's the quarterback and the run game. I mean, I cannot. The run game was doing us no favors. It actually gave me flashbacks of Darnold, all the 3rd and 8s and 3rd and 9s that we endured this game because we would try. Usually it was MC right again, stuck in the backfield or a screen. We threw a lot of screens, and honestly, first of all, he was missing them. And then second of all, when they were caught, they were getting tackled in the backfield. Like they're
wide receiver screens, and that's what I'm sick of these wide receiver screens. Why are we doing these? Like, that's a design play. A wide receiver screen, that's a design play. Like, have a design play and then have a running back screen if the play's not there. Like, why are we doing so many of these wide receiver screens? That shows, like, you don't go and have Mahomes, Josh Allen doing all these. That shows a lack of confidence in your quarterback to me. Woody, am I crazy with that assessment?
No, but do you have You don't have confidence in your quarterback.
Of course, but that's an indication. But this also gets back to the point where, like, pull him. We are in a game that is so close. We could have pulled this game off. You make a change at halftime or even going into the fourth quarter. You give ourselves a better chance of winning. Yeah. Like if your play calling is so blatantly like disrespectful, honestly, to the trust that you have in your quarterback, take him out. Take him out. I don't care what PR issues you're going to have, what the QB controversy is going to have, because I think that's their fear. They're afraid of going and having, the whole thing go down. Oh, is it White? Is it Wilson? Like, put your team in the best position to win. And that was my criticism of the entire coaching staff the first 3 weeks of the season. And that is now, again, sadly, after a beautiful win against the Bills, you have a bye week. You got 2 weeks to prepare for a team that you know who they are. You know what they do. We've known this for a very long time. This is a team in the division that has the longest standing coaching staff that has been doing the same thing to the same teams for 20 years. And you've got 2 weeks to think about nothing besides this. And you still not only did you not put up a fight offensively, you didn't put up a fight, but you weren't even remotely close. I mean, not for nothing. If Zach Wilson did a fraction of the production that Mac Jones did against our defense, we got a better defense than the Patriots. I don't care who you talk to. We've got a better defense than the Patriots. Mac Jones isn't that great of a quarterback. He moved the chains. He got the ball downfield. He got yardage. And they had an issue executing in the red zone. They had an issue executing despite getting yards, and that's a testament to our defense. But if we had Mac Jones, a fraction of what Mac Jones was able to do, I think this would have been a 2-score win.
What are your thoughts on Brant Boyer and the team? Are you mad at special teams for that, or is it more that if the offense wasn't as bad as it was, they wouldn't have even ever been in that scenario?
We shouldn't have been in the position. Like that sucked. Like that hurt. Like that drained my I love doing this podcast. I love talking to my main man Woody here. I love our followers. I was in zero mood to show up for this because of the special teams kick return, but it's not their fault. It's not the special team. It's not on the special teams coach. It's not on anybody in the special teams. The special teams honestly had a pretty good game despite that one play. Special teams had a great season despite that one play. It's unfair to put that on them. We never should have been in that position. When you have a defense that puts on such a clinic, against this team, and the offense just decides to not even show up to the building. You can't do it. What do you think? Am I crazy? What do you think? This is it on the special teams?
No, I gotta completely agree. I mean, yeah, it sucks. And like in the end, and like in the grand scheme of things, like they lost the game. I mean, like that's it scored. They lost the game.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, Brant Boyer. I mean, it doesn't make him any less of a coach. A lot of the players that have been doing work, like I'm still, like you said, they've been having a great season, and they were actually having a great game. It sucks that happened when it happened, but I hope I just hope that they're not beating themselves up. I know Salah is a nice people's person, so I don't think he's beating up Brant Boyer in the locker room. But somebody who should be beating themselves up is pretty much Zach, the running backs. LaFleur. They talking about LaFleur. Might be getting a head coaching job this summer. I don't know.
I'm gonna put a quick pause on that one. I think after this week.
But no, I mean, I still believe in LaFleur. I think he has a great mind. He has great adjustments, but I also think that the Zach like he and this has always been my question. This has always been my question. Because Fitz, like everybody knows, Fitz and I have known each other a long time. He's been trying to get me to drink this Zach Wilson Kool-Aid since before he was even drafted. Like, oh, this kid from BYU.
You're saying me?
Are you serious?
But you're saying this if I've been saying this all season. Look at our Instagram account and look at all the quotes that I have saying Zach Wilson sucks. I tried initially, but don't say he's been saying since. Say he said back in the day, and he has since corrected his old mistakes.
Okay, so but back
I don't like how you preface that.
So back then, when he was bleeding BYU Cougars, all that. My biggest reservation was his mentals. It does not seem like he'll ever get him. It really doesn't, And yeah, he has physical gifts. He had a beautiful, actually, one of his throws was tremendous. I think it was to Tyler Conklin. Nice sidearm throw. Didn't mean anything because it was like 3rd and 13. It was for an 8-yard gain. But it's like, like the fact that he has that like in his arsenal, like he has physical gifts, but his mentals, it doesn't look like they're there. And don't give me that, because that's why he got drafted, is because people look at him, they're like, he can make these throws, he can do this, he can do that. Like that's a throw that Jalen Hurts can't do, right? But Jalen Hurts is a better competitor. He has it, right? And Zach, I didn't think he had it. I think it would be worse because he's in New York, right? He's not somewhere in Jacksonville, right? No one knows how Trevor Lawrence played. No one, right? He has a bad game. It's under the radar. But Zach, he sucks, right? In the whole world, he sucks, right? I didn't think he was going to be able to handle that. And I thought Justin Fields would, because he already had people trying to tell him that he sucked back in college. So that's where we're at. And yeah, I think we definitely shouldn't be talking draft. I think it might be time to roll the dice on a vet.
On a vet? On who? How many times have people have rolled the like? It hasn't
matured. Are you trying
to?
So you're trying to draft a quarterback in the first round?
I'm not necessarily saying that either. I don't know what the answer is. This is why I'm saying that I think for a long time, I think when it came to, I think this goes back to Bowles, and not that we had enough talent to go and bring up some of the string players to see what they could do at the time. But I do think that from Bowles to Gase and now to Salah, we have this commitment to QB1. And despite poor performance, we are not giving other this guy walking. Oh, look at this fat. So we got a fat Patriots fan walking to McDonald's across the street from me in a Judon jersey. What a pathetic. Yeah, go eat your McDonald's.
It's all right.
Fat piece.
Hey, it's okay. It's all right.
No,
commitment to QB1.
Back on track. I'm in Virginia. Why is he? They got some goal walking around here. So Bowles to Gase to Salah. I feel like there is they're so committed to QB1, and what I think that does to us is, at the end of the day, and I said this weeks ago, I mentioned the word Strevler, and you laughed at me. And I might still, most people would probably laugh when I say that. But my point is not necessarily him versus anything else. It's just like we are at a position right now where we've got more data to concede the point that Zach Wilson ain't the guy than there is that he is the guy, right? And look at what happened to Geno Smith. Sometimes it takes some time to sit on the bench for a decade, and then you'll figure it out. I'm saying, like, we're at a point right now where Zach is not ready. And I don't know if playing more and building up more of an argument against him is really necessarily the best thing for him. Sometimes it takes some, just relax, settle in, take some time, watch the game. I think he needs to be benched. And I think we need to see what either Mike White could do, or Joe Flacco should not be QB3. I think Strevler should be QB3 because, and the reason why I say this is for the same question that we brought up to this position. We're like, oh, is it draft? We trade for a vet. We have between Mike White and Strevler, two people with question marks and a youth that we could, who knows, we might have a diamond in the rough that's in the Jets organization right now. I do not want to use another draft pick on a quarterback. I'm sick of doing this. We've already used so much draft capital that has not panned out. I don't want to trade draft capital or talented players for a veteran quarterback, or have to go and put, a giant contract on a veteran in free agency. I don't want to do that, Woody. I don't think many Jets fans want to do that, especially after all the draft picks that we've already used on quarterbacks. So if we're at this position right now where Zach Wilson's not going anywhere unless we cut him for the next two seasons after this year, what's he going to do? Demand a trade? Yeah. How'd that work for Mims and more? Like, you're not going anywhere. Let's see what we've got with some of these other young quarterbacks that have shown just as much, if not more, flashes than Zach has. Like, if we're keeping him there because he's shown flashes and we've used draft capital on him, that's too risky to not, like, we admit failure if we pull him. And that's, I think, the mentality, sadly. Like, why not see what Mike White can do? Why not see what Chris Strevler can do? Chris Strevler, and I'm going to keep on bringing his name up until hopefully the New York Jets team takes notice. But this guy, we were losing in all three of the preseason games before he came in. And sure, it was preseason games against third-string players. Of course, I get that. Joe Flacco looked terrible against the third-string players. Zach Wilson looked terrible against the second, third-string players. Why not see this guy's just got winning blood in him? You look at the energy he brings. It's like, this guy's freaking fun, man. And it's just like, why not give him a shot? We got people in the building. Why put all these resources into a new guy when we don't really know what we have to begin with? Woody, give me your assessment on my lunacy.
Yeah, lunacy. But I mean, I personally think that Zach is gonna. I said it before. I think that I thought Zach was gonna struggle this game. I didn't think he was gonna struggle like this. I thought we were gonna win the game, but I do think he's gonna bounce back nicely against Chicago. All right, Chicago, one of the lesser defenses in the NFL. They just got cooked up a little bit by Marcus Mariota. They've been getting cooked up. They're the first team in NFL history to get 29 points in 3 consecutive games and lose all 3. Right, so that just shows you how much the defense is doing or not doing. So I do think Zach is going to bounce back, and then the Zach pack will come out, being like, hey, come on, it's still just his 20th game. Come on, hey, yo. So I do think that'll happen. But at the end of the year, regardless if we make playoffs or not, which I do still think we'll be a playoff team, looking like a first round exit. But at the end of the season, I feel like a serious decision needs to be made. Like, can Zach get over the hump? Because obviously, just being good against 15 defenses is not good enough, right? If we're trying to win, and I'm pretty confident that Salah's trying to win. He's been in the Super Bowl or at least a conference championship at every stop that he's been at in the NFL level. So I'm sure he's trying to do that again. So they got to make a serious decision. I don't know if they have faith in White. I mean, White and Strevler, the way I see it, they probably have higher floors than Zach, right? I don't think either of them are probably going to look as bad as Zach did in both of these Patriots games. But the reason why Zach keeps getting the nod is because of the ceiling. And that's why I brought up that sidearm throw to Conklin. Like that's an impressive talent. His quick release. He can do different things that these guys can't do. So that's why they're just like, once it clicks. How many times have you heard that phrase? And either in an interview, one just drive, once it clicks. They were saying that about Darnold. Once it clicks. So that's why they just, drag that over and over. And, unfortunately, it clearly hasn't clicked yet for Zach. It still could, I don't know. But that is why they are not giving White and Streveler the shots that they might deserve, especially White, because White, we don't know if it clicked. We don't know what the click is like with White. So,
do you really think it's a comparison of ceilings, or do you think it's a comparison of risk? Like if JD and Salah were in alignment on the Zach Wilson pick, I think it's an ego thing nearly at a point. I don't think it has anything, because like when it comes to ceilings, how can you say with confidence that your ceiling is so much higher with this guy who's done nothing? Like he had a fun game outside of the pocket against Tennessee last year, and he had a fun game in the pocket against Tampa Bay last year. Outside of that, I mean, he had a couple fun fourth quarter games this year, but he has not been the reason why we've won. Here comes Patriots fan done with his cheeseburgers, his McDonald's cheeseburgers.
McDonald's is a fine establishment. I don't know why you gotta bash.
Disgusting. He looks just like Judon too. I don't see like why. Like I don't. What do you think it is? Do you really think it's ceiling, or do you think it's a little bit egotistical? We talked about egos beginning of the season with a couple of the.
I mean, clearly ego plays a factor. I told you if Zach doesn't work out, the regime is done. I don't think that's true anymore. But the sentiment,
and I disagree with you at the time.
Yeah, you disagree. Yeah, and now I don't think that's true anymore, because now this regime has showed us enough. Like, hey, are we going to throw out the defense because they got the QB wrong? Like, stuff like that.
Right.
But the sentiment behind why I said that still stands. Like, that's how, like, the regime, they pick their QB. How many regimes get to just cycle through QBs? That doesn't really happen. They let Matt Rule do that. And now Carolina literally has 5 QBs, and none of them are the answer. None of them. Like, they literally just drafted a QB this year. He's not the answer. Like, they don't have any. So regimes usually don't cycle through quarterbacks. That's why they're not trying to cycle. So I think it's a little bit of both. Obviously, if they felt like Zach's ceiling was equal or lesser to Mike White and Streveler, and we're 6-4, or let's say in the middle of the game 6-3, trying to get this win, trying to become first, and they truly thought that the ceilings were equal, I personally think they would have benched Zach and said, man, we need to get, like, we need this win. We need this win. He does not give us the best chance. But I think they were just, hoping that it would click. Like you said, 2 weeks they did prepare. They were definitely. It's not like they weren't doing nothing. They might have underprepared.
I'm not saying they were doing nothing, but they did not do the right things. I don't care. They were doing something. It's not like they were not showing up to work. Like, they were there, but like they did the wrong things, and that's why, like, because we were texting during this game, folks, and I was ripping LaFleur. Woody was a little bit more critical of Zach than he was LaFleur. My biggest criticism to LaFleur is the preparation component. It's not just the game, the play calling. I think both are I'm critical of LaFleur for this game, but it's execution, which is obviously it's been a problem as well. But the preparation, like, I don't understand what the hell was being done at One Jets Drive for the last 2 weeks. I just don't. I don't. And one last thing I'm going to push back with you on, Woody, on the last statement. It's like, I really don't think that the Jets coaching, if they were being objective about things, they were just going to zoom out and be like, all right, take away the draft capital that we use for Zach Wilson, take away everything else. You have a quarterback that happens to be number 2, Zach Wilson, on a team wherever, taking away their investments in them, right? And then you have a quarterback named Mike White, the number 5, this kid over there. We've seen what they've each done. Zach Wilson has been the starting quarterback preparing with the number 1 offense for his entire career, despite a couple injury setbacks. Mike White's been a backup. And in the opportunities he's had to shine, he has stepped up, at least in one game, in a massive way. If we're talking about ceilings, Zach Wilson has never, in any of the opportunities he had a game, anything remotely close to Mike White's best. And Mike White has been the prepared for starter, 3 times in his career? And he's been around in the season in the league for 2 years more than Zach? About at least 1 or 2 more years longer than Zach?
2 or 3.
2 or 3, maybe. So it's like, if you're really doing that zoom out of just QB versus QB, ceiling versus ceiling, taking away all of the investments and the egos and the stubbornness of this is what we want it to be versus what is probably there, I don't think they're making the right assessments. And I think starting Zach in this game, of course you do. Of course you're supposed to start Zach in this game, and I think he deserved to start this game. But I don't think he deserved to finish it. And that is where my criticism of this regime is coming into place, where, I think oftentimes we see adjustments relative to some of the games we've had this year in the fourth quarter where we have this point spread differential, which is incredible. Is it so much our offense? Is it so much to be given to LaFleur? Is it does the defense maybe deserve just as much, if not more, credit? So if we're going to be in this adjustment, giving LaFleur all this credit for adjustments, what opportunities is he getting? And I think the adjustments are really not as there as we think they are. I think they've done good adjustments through the course of the season. I'm not going to take that away from them. But I think there's better adjustments that could be made. And I think that starts with filtering out the quarterback. See what else we got on the roster. Because we're going to get to a position, sadly, at the end of the season, if Zach does not get it together by week 18 and say, God willing, we make the playoffs and we likely lose round 1, because we're going to be going up against a more complete team in the playoffs than we are against the Bears and the Jaguars and the clown show of a stretch that we have ahead of ourselves here. There's going to come a time where after week 18 or the wild card playoff round, they're going to be like, now what? Do we know if Zach's the guy? Is there anybody else on the roster that we have that could potentially do anything? Or do we now have to trade some of our draft stock or some of our young, players for a veteran? Or do we have to trade up for a better quarterback that we're going to be rolling the dice in because we don't know what they look like? We just saw a monumental trade for Russell Wilson that didn't work out. Matt Ryan is not that great. What veteran options are there? That's why I really want to see, even if Zach ends up being the guy and he actually is the best opportunity that we have to be successful, we've got 2.5 seasons of him contractually obligated to being on the New York Jets. Throw out Mike White and Streveler and have them freaking fail. See what we've got. You know what I mean? Because if they do succeed in this off chance that they end up being something, we've got a pennies on the dollar guy that could actually go and give us an opportunity to win. And we'll actually know, because we'll never know unless we give them a shot. And that's the biggest thing that I find frustrating, especially with previous regimes. This season, I get why it's a little bit tougher to make that choice, because you don't want to give up on the season yet. If you go and make that change, it makes them feel like we're giving up on the season. In previous regimes, we've never done it despite the season being over by October 1st. Halloween comes and we're already 10 mock drafts in. Woody, do you think there's a shot that Mike White or Streveler could, do you think there's a shot the coaches could move that way despite the success we've had so far this season? Because that's going to be a tough thing to overcome.
They would need a performance like this one, literally against Chicago. Because right now, when Zach has played softer defenses, the Steelers were banged up, we put up some points. We put up some points against Miami, right? It hasn't been all ugly Even though the Miami game, every single TD was a rushing TD, that there was 5 of them. But he had one of those, right? So they're definitely still on him, like on the bandwagon. If he shows up against Chicago, who has literally struggled against teams of all different types, like Atlanta's not good, right? Detroit, they lost to Detroit, right? Like they've been up and down, but mostly down this whole season. If Zach comes in with another dud like that, like can't get over 200 yards against Chicago, then if they really are trying to still keep this playoff dream alive, which they should be because they got a lot of vets, then yeah, they should look. But one thing I got to say about the draft capital and all this is like, hey, we are in tandem agreement that we got a championship defense, right? We both like our special teams a lot. I mean, we're not a perfect roster. We have holes, but like, do we need 7 picks? Like, do we need 7 picks, or is it worth giving up some to have an upgrade at the most crucial position on the team?
Okay, then who do we target then? Because I'm open to that. I'm totally open to that. But who do we target? Because that becomes a question. Russell Wilson on paper seemed like a decent thing to give up for, like at the time. And how did that work out? Like, is it a fit thing? Like, look at Mac Jones fitting. I don't think Mac Jones would have a fraction of the success that he did if he went to any other team, but because it was such a perfect fit with the system. So, who's out there that we could potentially make a move for, that the team is actually willing to give them up? Like because there's a price thing too. It's like, I think everybody's got a price, but is there anybody that comes to mind? Because like, if you say Jimmy Garoppolo, I might do a swan dive off the apartment roof I'm in. I might actually, I might actually do it. So please don't say that.
I would not. The popular Facebook names, the 2 popular Facebook names are, of course, Lamar, who I don't think they're going to give up, and Derek Carr, who I think would be a horrific fit. But I do. I'm the only person saying it. You heard it here first. Gardner Minshew is a starting quarterback in this league. I'm not even joking. He is literally a starting quarterback in the league. He has been better than Trevor has ever been in 2 years. That is a fact. And he was throwing. You don't even know his receivers. Who was it? Well,
Christian Kirk.
No, Kirk just got on the team this year. We're talking about.
You're saying last year? Okay, yeah.
2 years ago when Minshew was starting.
Chenault, DJ Chark. I do know the receivers actually.
Yeah, and Chark tore his ACL week 1.
Heartbreaking.
So it was brutal. Yet he has one of the best TD to int ratios in the league. Right, his coach does not coach in the NFL anymore. He is a very talented QB. He's actually in my opinion, the best backup there is right now. He was actually competing with Hurts. That is something that I do think the Jets, other than Darnold's rookie year when we had Teddy and Josh, they have never given their young QB any type of competition. And I personally believe that competition with Minshew, where Minshew was saying he don't even do number 2 in the bathroom because he ain't number 2, he's a number 1, has pushed Jalen Hurts to be the type of quarterback where now people are trying to tell me he's an MVP. Like, competition, that works. I think it is worth trading for Gardner Minshew, because if he wins the job, trust me, we are good. We're good. And if he doesn't win the job, that is because he has pushed Zach to a level of elevation that makes us good. So I think Gardner Minshew is somebody who's not going to cost a lot, right? Like, he's not. That's not somebody who's gonna, break the bank, or we're not giving up firsts at all, right? But he is somebody who can play. He's somebody who's severely undervalued. And as we already know, Joe Douglas came from the Eagles. We've been making trades from the Eagles. We got Herbig from the Eagles, right? The relationship is there. This is a very feasible move that would solve so much for this organization. That's my piece on it.
So first of all, I want to say I love this take, and I want to clarify why I laughed because I feel like that's came across as if I was criticizing your take, and I was laughing because it was just unexpected. I know that you love Gardner Minshew. You've been talking about him for a long time. I was him for Halloween a couple years ago. I love Gardner Minshew.
I saw that. I saw that. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Minshew. I was not expecting to hear that, and what I love about this take is I think he can. I think he's kind of got a little bit of a Fitzpatrick thing to him where, he's a boomer bust, and that could be drive to drive, that could be game to game. But he would cost so little. We've got the relationship with Philadelphia. We've done numerous trades with them now. And if we're not giving up so much draft capital to go and get someone like him, who I'm not going to necessarily go as far as to say he's a lock for a franchise quarterback. But at the same time, it's like he could be a guy for a bit. You know what I mean? So I'm on board with it. And I think another thing that you mentioned, which is very underratedly not spoken enough, and I would love to see a Jets Press article, our newest addition to the Jets Press, our boy James Woody, recently hired. I would love to see a Jets Press article from you on this, which is like, for some reason, there has been because you go and have this coin term, the kid with the keys with Zach Wilson, and that was the case with Darnold. That was the case with Zach. Why are we giving these kids keys? You go in when you're driving around, you got the FM radio on. You forget to plug in your phone to put music on, and you go and hear those radio commercials. 1877 cars for kids. Why are we giving keys to kids? We should not be doing this. I'm sick of giving keys. Why not have competitions? I love that take. I think we need to have competitions for these kids because it will make the kids better. It will mature the kids. They don't got a license yet. They should not be driving. Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold are proof that they should not be driving. And I think there's an argument to be made that Darnold might be able to have gotten his training wheels down, or he might have been able to learn how to drive. I think Zach Wilson can still learn how to drive if he had some competition, if he was able to take a seat and see how it's done first. You went and said earlier, the Panthers now have 5 quarterbacks and not a single one of them are any good. And I was surprised to hear that because you've been a diehard Darnold fan for a very long time. But I appreciate the assessment ultimately because ultimately it's not really Darnold's fault. He had a lot of good things that was going for him coming out of college. So did Zach. There's a reason why they were both picked in the position that they were. And when we go and keep criticizing perennially the Jets not getting quarterbacks to where they need to be in the timeline it needs to be in, and when you go and see what Geno's done, what is it that we're not doing right? Is it really we don't have the right coaches or we're not giving them the right opportunities? Is the opportunity playing? Is the opportunity sitting? Or is the opportunity actually competing with another person to make them better? And I think that is the missing link that we have not had in this franchise for sadly far too long. So, Woody, I think you hit the nail so flush on the head that you couldn't even hear it. It was just such a flush sound. It was just, wow. That was beautiful.
Well, yeah. We are Jets fans, and we are hoping that, we can still – the coin, right? The coin said we were going to lose this game. That's another thing, right?
Sick of this coin.
Hey, all hell. We'll see.
Well, if you're swearing by the coin's got us losing next week against the Bears.
I know. No, whoa. I'm not – I already said we were going to win this game. We was going to win against Chicago. But if we lose, then maybe the coin is just out here hooking it up. So either way, whether it's the coin being right or I'm right, we would still make the playoffs, right? Because the coin got us going to the AFC Championship. I got us going. So
because there's only 2 options: either the coin's right or Woody's right. Anything else is it's just completely fake news.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. So those are the relevant possibilities. Things are looking great, but if we do need a QB, all right, anybody watch a Take Flight Talk, I need you to send letters. Take every pen in your house and just write letter after letter. Oh, actually, we have cell phones. Take your phone and type email after email. DM after DM. Let Woody Johnson, let Joe Douglas, let Robert Salah, let Mike LaFleur know Gardner Minshew can do wonders for this organization by just being here.
Woody's also accepting telegram couriers. He's accepted it all. But we need
if you got Ravens, send Ravens. You know, with the little notes on them, send the Ravens over. And not the Baltimore Ravens.
And Birds. While you're sending Ravens, if Lamar Jackson ends up being included in that, feel free.
Oh, please. So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for Take Flight Talk. All right. I know this was a tough game, tough in every sense of the word, but hopefully you watch us, you feel a little bit better. Two goofballs out here goofing. And Fitz, hit us with your final thoughts.
My final thoughts, I want to begin with apologizing for how salty I was when we opened up. This was a tough game, and we had to put on a brave face. We've made a commitment to our followers and to each other and to ourselves to do this. That was really difficult to begin doing, but I want to just go and say thank you to all of our followers that makes this worth us doing. Because if we did not have the beautiful engagement that we've had over the past few weeks, Instagram's been phenomenal. We've been creating a very nice community, been a part of building a very nice community, and we're very grateful for that. And if it wasn't for that, and it was just me and Woody coming on here, nobody gave a crap about what we thought, I don't know if I would have actually showed up. So thank you to our the community that we're a part of and continuing to help build. So it's nice to be here despite a tough day. And we are hoping that these things turn around and we could have some nicer nights with one another. So thank you all.
Damn. Perfect Thursday.